Have you ever trusted people so much that you gave them your heart, your savings, your love, and in return, they abandoned you when you needed them the most? This is not just a story of betrayal, but of dignity and strength, of a woman who gave everything to her family, only to be left behind like she was nothing. But she proved them wrong. She showed them that even the quietest soul has the power to rise, to teach a lesson that will never be forgotten. And before we dive deeper into her journey, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Timeless Voices for more stories that will move your heart and inspire your soul. Her name was Margaret, a woman of 68 with hair silver as the moonlight and a heart still warm with kindness. She had lived through storms, through loss, through loneliness. 10 years earlier, her husband Robert, the love of her life, had died suddenly, leaving her with an empty home and even emptier days. The silence of her house became unbearable. She tried filling it with books, with gardening, with prayer, but what she missed most was companionship, the sound of voices that cared for her. Her relatives visited from time to time, but their visits were shallow. They came when they needed money, when they needed help, when they wanted something. Margaret gave willingly. She believed giving was a way to keep herself connected, to feel needed. Deep down she hoped that one day, they would come to her not out of need, but out of love. One evening, her nephew Daniel came to her with a smile that looked warm but carried calculation. "Aunt Margaret," he said, "we're planning a road trip across the countryside. We want you with us. It wouldn't be the same without you." Margaret's heart leapt. For years, she had dreamed of belonging, of being included in something, of not being forgotten. Tears filled her eyes as she agreed instantly. The planning began, but slowly the responsibility shifted. "Since you don't have big responsibilities anymore, maybe you could handle the bookings," Daniel suggested. Margaret nodded. She paid for the car rental. Then the hotels. Then the food. She told herself it was nothing, that money came and went, but the time spent together would be priceless. In her heart, she thought this trip would heal her loneliness, that laughter and shared memories would replace the silence she carried. The day arrived. Margaret wore her favorite floral dress, the one Robert had once admired. She carried her small suitcase and a heart filled with hope. When the car pulled up, filled with chatter and music, she felt like a child again. She stepped in, smiling, her chest warm with anticipation. The first day felt like a dream. Music played, wind rushed through open windows, and laughter filled the car. They sang, they joked, they ate at diners along the road. Margaret laughed too, though her laugh was softer, as if she was afraid it might not fit among theirs. For a while, she believed this was everything she had been longing for. But the cracks began to show. At a hiking trail, she lagged behind. Her knees ached, her breathing grew heavy. "Come on, Grandma, you're too slow," one of the younger cousins teased. The others laughed. Margaret smiled weakly, but the words pierced her heart. She told herself not to mind, that they didn't mean harm. At a souvenir shop, she picked up a little keychain to remember the trip. But before she could pay, the counter was filled with items her relatives piled up: shirts, mugs, snacks. "Thanks, Aunt Margaret, you're amazing," Daniel said, slipping his hand around her shoulder as if it was her duty to provide. She forced a smile, swallowed the lump in her throat, and paid. That night, in the hotel room, Margaret sat on the edge of her bed, clutching Robert's photograph. "Maybe I'm slowing them down," she whispered, a tear slipping down her cheek. But a part of her whispered back, a voice she rarely heard, telling her she deserved better. The second day grew worse. They rushed everywhere. She was left behind in pictures, her smile absent in their captured memories. At meals, she sat quietly while the others talked about their own plans and friends, as if she were invisible. She felt more like a wallet than a family member, more like baggage than someone they cherished. On the third morning, they drove through long empty roads. Margaret, tired but still hopeful, asked softly, "Could we stop at a gas station soon? I need a restroom." Daniel sighed. "Fine. But please be quick. We don't have all day." They pulled into a lonely station. Margaret stepped out, clutching her small purse. She walked slowly, her knees stiff, her hands trembling. She went inside. For a brief moment, she thought of how nice it would be if they bought her a coffee, maybe waited with patience. But when she returned, her heart froze. The car was gone. Her suitcase, her belongings, her medication, gone. The only thing left was a crumpled note under a rock by the bench. With shaking hands, she picked it up. The words burned into her eyes, "You're too slow. We can't drag you along." Her chest tightened, and her knees nearly gave way. Tears blurred her sight. She sank onto the bench, trembling in disbelief. How could the people she gave everything to abandon her like this, in the middle of nowhere? She thought of Robert, of the promise he once made never to leave her alone. "Robert," she whispered through tears, "why did they do this to me?" For a long while she sat there, broken, staring at the road where the car had disappeared. Stranded, betrayed, discarded like she was nothing. But slowly, something stirred inside her. Pain turned into fire. Weakness turned into resolve. She wiped her tears, stood up, and walked into the station office. The clerk, a kind man with gentle eyes, listened to her story. He helped her call a taxi. With the little cash in her purse, she returned home that night, her heart shattered but her spirit unbroken. She could have drowned in sorrow, but she chose not to. She chose dignity. Margaret sat at her kitchen table the next morning, spreading out every receipt, every booking confirmation, every rental agreement. One by one, she canceled them. The hotels, the car rental, the tours. Every booking had been in her name, every payment tied to her. She called the car company and reported it stolen. She called the hotels and withdrew the reservations. By afternoon, her so-called family found themselves stranded with nothing. When they reached the hotel, ready to check in, they were denied. Reservation cancelled. They rushed to the car rental company, only to be told the vehicle was now flagged as stolen. Panic replaced arrogance. Fear replaced laughter. They called her, voices filled with desperation. "Aunt Margaret, we're sorry. Please, help us. We didn't mean it. We need you." Margaret listened, her heart steady. She remembered the gas station, the note, the tears she shed alone. She took a deep breath. "I may walk slowly, but I am not weak. You left me once. Now you will learn what it feels like to be left behind." And with that, she hung up. The silence that followed was not painful anymore. It was powerful. For the first time in years, Margaret felt free. She wasn't just surviving, she was reclaiming herself. She used what savings remained to book a small seaside inn. There, she walked along the shore, the waves kissing her feet, the wind tangling her silver hair. She smiled, not because others gave her happiness, but because she found it within herself. In the days that followed, her relatives returned, ashamed, embarrassed, trying to mend the bridge they had burned. But Margaret did not bend. She knew now that love wasn't about who shared your blood, but who valued your heart. She discovered new friends, neighbors who invited her for tea, people who asked how she was not because they wanted something, but because they cared. She began volunteering at a community center, reading stories to children, her heart filling with the kind of belonging her relatives had never given. Margaret was no longer the woman who sat alone in a quiet house, waiting for love. She was the woman who had taught betrayal a lesson. She was the woman who had chosen dignity over despair. And those who betrayed her, they never forgot. The memory of being stranded, of begging for help, of realizing the cost of their cruelty haunted them for years. Margaret didn't need revenge to hurt them. Her strength was enough. Her refusal to return to their side was enough. She taught them that you can use someone's money, you can take their kindness for granted, you can even leave them behind, but you can never break a spirit that refuses to be broken. And in the end, Margaret didn't just survive. She triumphed. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Timeless Voices for more powerful stories that remind us of the strength within us all. Because sometimes, the slowest step is the one that carries the most power.